And in studio with us right now is former Nandi Hills MP Alfred Keter. Good morning, Alfred. Siku nyingi sana.
Good morning. It is almost a year since I was here with City and Eric and the rest. Yes. Thank you so much. Nice meeting you.
Yeah, welcome back. That is the hot seat. Today will make it cooler. But City, before Alfred makes it cooler, the proverb of the week.
Well, the proverb for the whole of this week come from the kingdom of Lesotho, otherwise pronounced as Lesotho. Yes. Formerly, I keep saying this, formerly known as Basotho land. Man, the names that people have. God Almighty. A person is a person because of other people.
Alfred.
Yeah.
What does that
That is what defines you. It's not about yourself. It's about the others, how they see you.
That is what defines you. And City, because that is, it's about the others, that is what defines you. Yes. Now, Mheshimiwa, it is 1 year since we had a discussion right here on the Situation Room. And a lot has happened during that 1 year. We just want to take stock of 2024 and the politics, the political year in review of how it has been in this country. We've seen a lot. We talk about the demonstrations that we witnessed in this country, the broad-based government, and now we have the impeachment of a former deputy president. And a lot more that is happening, including yesterday's handshake, as people would want to call it, between the former president and President William Ruto. Just how has the year been, politically speaking?
Yeah, it is very interesting because if you remember City and if you watch even that clip when I was here, we discussed these issues. I saw and we talked about Parliament getting to a state of a collapse in terms of it is captured. Which, those are some of the issues we discussed. If you remember, I actually told you, Parliament has been captured. And you've seen with the recent issues coming, like the protest, the controversial finance bill 2024. Members of Parliament, most of them, were not supportive to the punitive taxation measures they were advocating for in Parliament. And if you want to prove me right or wrong, you must remember when the Gen Zs protested, these same members of Parliament went to State House when the president wanted to now refuse to ascend the law, which was a product of Parliament.
Yeah.
And the majority, those who supported it in Parliament and even celebrated in Parliament after the pass of that controversial bill, when youths and many other Kenyans were agitated. We spoke about those issues here. Then, when the president refused to ascend their own law, their own child, they celebrated and they was very excited. People were like shocked. What's happening? So this is a parliament that is captured. Most of those members of parliament don't engage in an objective manner. It's no longer about what they believe in. It's no longer about what is right for this country. It's all about the patronage by the executive, which are in control of Parliament. These are Parliament who did not elect their leaders. The committees in Parliament normally should elect their leaders. But the leaders were coronated from State House and then they were endorsed in Parliament. And these are people who are meant to oversight the executive. To oversight the state organs. They are actually the bosses of the executive. They should act in a manner, in an objective manner, so that they protect the public interest. And that is the reason why the political class have lost confidence. Because young Kenyans, including everyone, have realized that we don't have a parliament. At the moment, judiciary is getting to levels of being compromised on some issues. If you saw how they handled even the replacement of Rigathi Gachagua. Most of the issues with the current deputy president, including an IEBC who gave a clearance, even himself, 2 days ago, he mentioned that the reason why we don't have an IEBC is because there are court cases. So he's admitting that there is no IEBC. So in the event there is no IEBC, who gave a clearance to the deputy president? So what I'm saying in short, the very many issues which have come to play in the political environment this year are clear indication that we've lost a parliament. The confidence in that parliament is already gone. And we actually lost it, when the Gensis went to parliament during the violence, the protest, which many youths died. They were killed by the brutality by the police. We lost about 60 of them. 60. But very many who were abducted and missing, including even myself, I was abducted by which is a sorry state of affairs.
City.
Because on a Sunday, you wake up and go to church, and you're driving yourself with your kids and family. Then after the church service, the police officers who are not on uniform, because I later on realized they were from DCI. They are coming with a cab with a civilian number plate. Themselves have civilian clothes with no identification at all, with masks on, and then they abduct you without even giving reasons. I saw the president of the Republic of Kenya trying to defend it the same day, because when I was abducted, the same day he was having addressing the maybe State of the Nation address or something. No, it was, I think he was addressing to the media, and he spoke about that Alfred Keter refused to honor summons. There were no summons. I was never summoned, and even after I went there were no charges which was preferred against me. I was never taken to any court. All they said is that there are allegations that you're bringing guns from Congo, which they could not prove, because in any case, I've never been to Congo. I've never crossed the border to Congo. The places I've been to, they know, because I've gone through immigration.
Immigration, yes.
And you see, it is ridiculous. How do you abduct someone in the name of your arresting, in the presence of their kids? You know, they were traumatized. My children, even as you speak, they have never come out of it. It's not an easy issue. And remember, just the other day I was trying to go to Australia, because the Kenyans in Australia invited me. I have supported so many Kenyans who are learning and making a living in Australia. So they had invited me for Christmas together with my family. Do you know I was denied a visa on the basis of you are accused of bringing guns in Congo? So it affects our lives more than, and I've already told you how my children are still traumatized.
And that is the story of many other Kenyans out there
who are abducted
in this country today, City.
You know, the thing about being in the information age is it is very, very easy to understand what's happening elsewhere. And because of that, it's also very easy to compare. The term disappearing people, it started in Latin America. There were cases in Argentina, there were cases in Chile. Presidents who decided that anyone who they did not like or who opposed them, they would abduct, detain, and many were forgotten. Recently, Syria had a moment when their president was no longer in power. Circumstances that they could never have foreseen. The greatest supporter had been Russia. Russia have their own problems. Russia was not able to come to their aid.
Iran as well.
All these countries that may have supported them have their own issues currently. So they cannot give a helping hand. What is certain, there are things that when people do, you get the impression that they think that they will never leave the positions that they have, or that power will never come to an end. And it all does. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter. So long as you're a human being, we are designed to expire at a certain point in time. That's how we are. Our sell-by date is guaranteed. It's the only thing, in fact, you have as a guarantee when you're alive. I don't know what it is that happens when people get power, because they become impatient. They don't want to hear anything that is contrary to their thinking. And they don't want to understand that when people oppose you, it's not that they don't like you. They're disagreeing with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that it's not personal. They're disagreeing. They're saying what you're doing is not right, and they're probably giving you reason. It is unfortunate that when we claim to be in a democracy, and this is what you see continuously, then it tells you that this democracy that we fought for is a democracy that we must continue fighting for. It's not as though we sit back and relax that we now have it. Because when you have a democracy, it is clear that there are always individuals who want to roll back time. There are always individuals who want to ensure that those hard-won victories are watered down, because their interests will go against the very democracy that we are speaking of. So the only way you work is when you diminish or water down these things. Mm-hmm. But they always come to an end. I like giving the example of Chile. I like giving the example of Argentina. Many people who were involved, and there were security forces in the abduction of citizens. 50 years down the line, not 10, not 20, 50. They are now being brought to book. Mm-hmm. You are a great-grandfather, you are a grandfather. Mm. Your family has no clue that that's what you did when you were young. Mm. But the records are there, and now you're being asked to say, excuse me, this is what you're involved in.
Mm. And you know, City, I support that. You know, most of these things that people do, it affects generations and generations and generations to come.
So true.
That's why nobody will forget it. It can even happen after 100 years, after 200 years. You see, like, at the moment, we have a government which is forgetting for youths to leave this country to other countries. Mm. You know, but the circumstances that they will face in those countries, and then the separation of these young families. Mm. You know, you have female and male, mm-hmm. and some are married, some are dating. You have one to go to Saudi Arabia, another one goes to Dubai,
yeah.
or in London or wherever.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are families which you've already separated. Mm. And again, even if they were to start their young family and say, let's move to Saudi Arabia, the schools in there, they cannot afford. The life, the cost of living there. So they are forced to remain here. We are messing up with the generation. We are killing the future of our youths by all this, what you're doing. And there is no country in the world other than Kenya, which is advocating for the young people to go abroad. You know, most nations focus on their individuals and the citizens, the population, to focus in building their nations, not to move individuals. Because when you go, it will benefit you as an individual to some extent, because you are earning a living. But you see, 80% of whatever you do will benefit that country you're in. You're building that nation. And it is also sad that most of these embassies that we have in this country, majority of them, especially the European embassies, are run by our own resources. Did you know that? American embassy, out of what they collect for those who are making applications for visas, is enough or more than enough to run the embassy. I think they remit some money to the US. So we are supporting the embassies. While we are a third world country, our embassy in New York or Washington, D.C., we are paying through our hard-earned cash here in Kenya to support. But I've told you and I've demonstrated how Australian embassy denied me a visa. It means they work with this government.
That's what now,
and they actually benefit. You see, they even asked me these questions, and I used a lawyer to prepare an affidavit, which I sent to them. But they could not believe my story, because this is something that most of these embassies have no interest of the public. Their interest is to protect whoever is in power. The same case as the American ambassador. That's why Kenyans were agitated for her to resign. Most of these embassies are protecting the interest of those who are sabotaging our economy, those who are misleading us in terms of investments. You look at this case of Adani. Some of us were accused before even you get to that point of asking what happened or transpired with the Australian issue. These Adani issues we raised over a year. People started raising in April, June, July. when it was started. It was a rumor that they want PPP. And then they mentioned a name Adani. Then it went. Then it came back. Only for the guy, Maina, to the whistleblower, to give us more information together with Senator Wanyonga. We've been talking about it for months. During the protest, this is one of the issues people were saying, no, we can't let our airport go. If you remember, there were youths. There is a young man who has been helped by so many to be taken back to school. Who actually spoke about it when they were coming,
marching
they were moving through this highway, Mombasa Road, towards the JKIA. And they were saying, we cannot allow Adani. And then issues came of Bangladesh, Pakistan, in India, in Europe, and now the US. The president cancelled because of the US. What does that tell you? And imagine, this is a government where the CS, the cabinet secretary in charge of energy, Okoh and I, goes to parliament to go say it will continue. Whatever happened in the US. Meaning, even themselves, when bad governance comes to your way, you even fail to lead on very basic issues that you should understand. The cabinet secretary should have come with information to say, with the new, fresh information coming, allow us as a government to relook into this Adani issue, then we'll get back. It would have stopped there. Only for the president to come and cancel in the afternoon. Lastly, the president later on, when he was in Mombasa, he was accusing, I don't know who, of cancelling the same Adani days. He's the one who did it during the State of the Nation address. Like the same case as these contributions and the fundraisings in charge by state officers. He's the one who gave a policy to say, you understand? And then he was accusing, these people want to refuse to stop us from donating in church. They are the ones who created that policy.
And you see, Alfred, you raise a very critical question in terms of when Kenyans were speaking pretty much about the Adani saga, the discomfort that Kenyans felt on how the country is being led. All that Kenyans were raising is we want a government that listens to us, which begs the question, do we have a government or a political class that is actually listening to the people that put them to power? Former Nandi Hills MP Alfred Keter, but
that issue of Australia, we need to address as a nation, even the ambassador, whoever is listening to me from that embassy. It is wrong to deny people on the basis of accusations, which are meant to, because the government is trying to punish the critics.
Can I ask a question? Do you know the reason why they denied you the visa? Did they tell you?
They said you have issues. They raised these issues
based on the suspicions that were raised. No proof of it.
No proof. So I wrote an affidavit.
They actually told you.
Yeah, they told me
that these issues were
which was good. Yes. They emailed me.
Yes.
And then I engaged a lawyer. We did an affidavit.
Yes.
To Australian Embassy. And I want them to listen. Some of us, we are victims of these governments which are against their critics. We've seen many critics who are abducted. Myself, I was abducted. I was never arrested. And there is nothing, no case which was preferred against me in any court of law. Because there were just accusations to taint my name, to terrify my family, to traumatize my children, so that they want to say, Dad, you have to stop.
That's it.
That is their intention. It's actually to stop the critics from raising issues. But when we stop, and if we were to stop, because I'm not going to stop. I want to inform DCI and the president and Kenya Kwanza, wherever you are, there is no amount of intimidation that is going to stop Alfred Keter from speaking the truth. Because if we were to stop, we will lose the airport. We will lose many other national strategic assets. You wanted to sell KICC. You are planning to sell Kenya Seed. You are planning to sell a new KCC. All these strategic assets. All we are saying, we are not criticizing you based on whatever you have raised. We've seen they were trying to start a narrative that to portray those who are raising issues are not raising because they are issues. They are raising because they don't love their country. Atesio was a lendo. Really? Between me, who is saying don't sell the airport, between me, who is saying stop this overtaxing Kenyans, allow Kenyans to raise capital for the economy to grow, to boost the economy. Between me and those who are busy stealing. We are losing 2 billion. Even according to the president's word, we are losing 2 billion every day, including today. This Tuesday, we will lose 2 billion because they cannot stop it. And we are the revenues that they tried to raise, I saw less than 2 weeks ago, they are below target by about 40 billion. You know, they can't meet their expectations of raising revenues. You know, they have a lot of, they've set standards high. But what they are doing is basically killing the industries. Companies are closing down. So between me, who is saying we should not allow the collapse of our economy, we should not allow the young people to go out desperately to work in environments which are pathetic, which are bad situations like what we've seen in Saudi Arabia, where some Kenyans are told to clean snakes. They're bathing snakes.
And Alfred, you raised something that is critical in terms of patriotism in this country. And when we talk about patriotism, our role as Kenyans in putting the leaders that is there in check is critical in terms of even dissenting voices being allowed to raise their issues and be heard, and with the hope that the government that there is listens to them and makes right that is not. CT, from where it is you sit in terms of just having a government that is listening, is that something that we can say the government listens to CT?
It's not me they should be listening to. They should be listening to the voices of the citizenry. That voice was supposed to have been represented by the members of parliament, and we have a problem there. This subject of sovereignty and this subject of the sovereign being us, the citizenry, is something that I think hasn't quite sunk yet. We talk about it, but as a citizenry, we don't actually believe we're the sovereign. We believe that our servants whom we have elected to work for us are the sovereign. And as long as that is the belief, then we will have a problem. There's a subject that Mheshimiwa touched on with regards to the American embassy, and then he touched on Saudi. You see, the people leave the country because they feel there are better prospects elsewhere.
Outside, yeah.
And many countries in the West, because they have declining populations, invite young people to actually go to those countries. There are countries like Philippines and some like India who have an understanding with some of these countries where their citizens go to, and the understanding helps look after the welfare of these individuals. But it's a subtle point here. The US of A has been a place that many people have wanted to go to.
Right.
And if I'm to take what you said about the money they raise, it's because people want to go, and if you go, you pay for the visa. They choose to go, and they choose to pay. And what they charge is actually their prerogative. What I have found, though, over time is embassies look after the interest of their nations. I would be slow to blame the embassy. They have a foreign ministry whom they answer to, and they are given instructions. They represent the country, but they're given instructions. They are told what it is that they should do and how they should go about it. They're not free agents who can just decide to do what it is that they've woken up in the morning and they feel they want to do. And again, they are not here to look after our interests. Not really. They're here to look after the interests of their countries.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is the primary thing that they are there to do. Now, I feel that when we have a leadership or a people who we say are in leadership, but they don't prioritize looking after the interests of their people, then we have a problem.
You know, City, I agree with you. There is an issue to do with what I'm concerned is that the applicants are out of 100%. 95% fail to get the visas. It's only 5%, which is a small number. But these 95% are all paid.
Of course.
And they don't reimburse the money.
Yeah.
So what I'm raising is that if you were to do calculations in terms of how much the American embassy is raising, and consider how much they're using to run their embassy, you will realize that we are the ones running the embassy.
Actually paying for it.
We are paying for it. While that is not the case, in all our embassies, And for your information, most of our embassies are about to collapse. Some have failed to pay rent. They are not paying their staff. Most of the consulates and the ambassadors, most of them don't get their allowances.
You're talking about the Kenyan
The Kenyan embassies abroad.
He is exactly right.
There was a moment a few years ago where there were pictures of the embassy in Washington, D.C., and it was shocking. It was dilapidated. There was chunks falling off the wall. And this is in Washington, D.C. This is our prime embassy in the U.S. And the questions were, what's happening? How is it that we're represented by this dilapidated building?
You know, the question is mismanagement of resources. The regime that we have, the Kenya Kwanza, they're only concerned when it is benefiting them, when it is their interest at stake. It's not about the national interest. When you see this Adani, they're getting mad about it. It's nothing about they want to... In fact, we have information. They are the ones who are sabotaging that airport. It is leaking through. But they exaggerated the leakage for it to show that
we needed
it. So that every Kenyan will say, this thing is embarrassing. We need to do something. So that we become desperate to fall into their trap. We are not refusing the rehabilitation or the building of a new airport. All we are saying, we are against the process. It has to be transparent. It has to be above board. Let it be subjected to public participation. Let it be a competitive process. Adani is not the only billionaire in the whole world. We have so many billionaires with no questionable backgrounds. Why don't we subject it to a competitive process so that we can have a strategic partner who can help us to achieve whatever we want to achieve and let them do business with it if they were to do business with it.
You're actually spot on, because if you were to look at people who've done what it is that Adani wanted to do, and if you throw that even to the projects that we had created a partnership even with Catraco. Wouldn't you look at somebody who has done a lot more work? In more places and with a greater diversity?
Look at the Qatar Airways, the airline. They are building a new airport in Rwanda with lesser cost than what Adani is proposing. Because what is happening with that Adani proposal is just a scandal. People want to make money here, and Adani wants to take advantage of compromising our people to also make more money. Because that is what he's doing in Bangladesh, that's what he's doing in India, that's what he was supposedly and allegedly to do in the US. So we should have, like what CTA said, we have a social contract between the people to govern us and ourselves, which they are to do it in our interest. The sovereignty remains with the people. The representatives who are in parliament are doing it because we allow them by law. And the people have a say. We are the law. We make decisions. That's why public participation is key in the constitutional dispensation. What I want to say, because of the time and everything, is that we have failed as a nation. We don't have leaders who have our interest at heart. What we have are people who want to make a big kill out of it. They want to be billionaires. They want to make a lot of money. They're investing abroad. They have no whatsoever interest with the public. Look at it. This Kenya Kwanza was formed on the basis of they wanted to uplift the standards of the less fortunate in the society. Those mamambogas, the boda, the Juakali sector, the women with single mothers, and many challenges. But when you see their punitive taxation measures are to support them more. Today when I was coming from Lavington, you get thousands of people who come from Kawangware, and they are trekking all the way to industrial area. Some of them are seeking jobs, they don't have jobs. They come and make queues in factories, whether they will be allowed. And you see, most factories in Kenya are closing down. Some are laying off employees. So nobody is employing. And the reason why I've even said, I've seen the president mention many things. And one of the accusations which was made by the Kenyan, Conference of Bishops, they spoke about lies. When you see a president telling us that Kibera in 10 years will be like a Lavington. Kibera, you can't address it like it is just an housing problem. It's all complex. It's about the cost of living. It's about the source of income.
Kibera is an ecosystem.
Yeah, it's an ecosystem.
So
you cannot address it like people who live in Kibera is because they lack houses in Lavington to live in. They cannot sustain their lives if they were to be in Lavington. They can't pay bills for electricity. Everything in most of the things which are happening in those slum dwelling are illegal activities, including in power connections. Things are free. Even illegal water connections, which are cheap, and you understand. And they are in dilapidated sanitation, which you don't call it decent. What I'm saying, you cannot transform this country on the basis of lies, but on the basis of realities. The question we should be asking ourselves, can you create jobs here so that people have employment and have source of income to be in better housing structures? You cannot move that someone in Mukuru Kayaba to Buruburu or Komaroks or somewhere in Kileleshwa or he goes to Runda just because there is a fucking house in Runda. No, they will not even sustain their lives there. So the question should be, what are we going to do to create jobs? And you see, as Alfred Keter have always said, what we lack in this country are people who are driven by the public agenda. Okay. That is what we lack.
We have people who are driven by personal agenda. Kevin?
Yes. Oh, I mean, there were so many questions, but I think for me, the one thing that has just been in my mind since you've been here, especially when you talk about that situation with the abduction, with your family in full view, I was just wondering, was there any recourse that you tried to follow? Anything that you tried to file formally? Were you given any sort of forum to talk about what happened to get some answers?
Do you know when I was abducted, I didn't know they were DCIs. I realized they were DCIs when I was taken to DCI headquarters. And I was actually shocked. You mean these are police officers in uniform? You should be...
in plain clothes.
They're in plain clothes. No identification, nothing. All they had is guns, which criminal gangsters can be having.
Right.
How can you identify police in the name of they have guns? And that is the reason why I saw you in this morning with engaging on a national issue of gender-based violence. You know, these are the same people who should resolve these issues. These are the same people who these victims of gender-based violence should report to. But they are criminal enterprise. It's sad to say. Because we no longer have a police service. What we have is a police force. You cannot abduct someone, take them to DCI headquarters, and claim to be a direct, you are is a police service. So that is where I was taken. You know, I left my children on the road. I was the one driving. Thank God there were other Christians who we were together. And they claim to be Christians, these people. Of course. And I've asked people, I've challenged people, you mean they are truly Christians? But if you want to know they are not Christians enough, and I'm sorry to appear like I'm judging them, but I just want to ask, every church or every religious organization have doctrines. If you have AIC, what business are you having in SDA every Saturday? Or you appear in Jeshi la Okoh this weekend, you are in Dinia Musamba this other Saturday, you are Muslim on a Friday, you are Indian the other day when they were celebrating, you are what? What are you? If you are a Christian like myself, I'm Catholic. That's why they abducted. They knew they were going to find me at Holy Trinity in Kileleshwa. Them, they don't go to any church. On Sundays, they can do a Thanksgiving. They call on many churches because they want to give out their 5 million or 10 million, which is our money, what we are losing, the 2 billion that we are losing every day. And so they want to fundraise, to give the money, and then to portray themselves like they are generous. And they are blessed because they are generous, they are giving. They should be telling us, where are you getting this money? As I finish, you know, when I was taken, I would expect, I was so terrified. I left my kids on the road. My wife could drive. And now they were traumatized because what is happening to their dad? And he's being taken by people who did not even identify themselves. Do you know, my last born after all these circus, you know, I went to DCI, nothing. I stayed there, nothing. Taken to Kamkunji, nothing. Then I was told, now in Kamkunji, we need to write a statement. The statement was like 2 lines. How are you close to Uhuru Kenyatta? Second question. Are you also very close to the deputy president? Then Rigathi Gachagua. Have you been to Congo? Then guns. It's over.
Now,
Then I saw the president coming on national live TV telling Kenyans that Alfred Keter was summoned, but he refused the summons. So because he didn't honor the summons,
he was arrested.
that was not an arrest. I was abducted.
Yeah.
Number two, there were no summons. And when he was pressed by Linus Kaikai, he stopped. He didn't want to engage further. No, they've given information. Because he didn't have any information. Let me tell you, what I was told in this year, all those officers were telling me it is from above.
Orders
They
from
couldn't
above.
say anything. We don't know. We are waiting for the above.
Now, what-
Meaning, it was from the president. Finally, my daughter asked me this question. After now, I was released in the evening. I went home and I met my kids, which I had to explain to them. Nothing happened to me. I'm fine. As part of way of trying to comfort them to come out of it. Do you know? One of my daughters asked me that, Dad, did you try to report to the police? She didn't know that these are police officers.
The police.
And she could not be convinced otherwise. This is a young kid growing in our nation. We need to transform this country. When you hear people saying Ruto must go, it is not anything tribal. Some of us, we are Kalenjin.
Right.
And to be specific, I'm Nandi, the same tribe as William Ruto. There is nothing about tribalism here. All we are saying, they're incompetent, they are very corrupt, and they have lost focus, and they are full of lies. Even according to our bishops, they have said they are tired of these lies and promises, fake promises. They came to Nandi. Let me, I have so many to talk about.
Yes.
They came to Nandi to open a water project. Then I saw the president posting, this water is distributed to 1,000 households. Do you know, it was only serving one household, which they connected for purposes of
Not
launching.
expecting you to say
Yeah.
one.
And he's tweeting, he
You're
tweeted.
sure? He wasn't talking about the future.
Which future?
That-
he was saying, he was reporting
that in the future,
that he has
it will serve a-
it is serving
in the
1,000.
future, it will
He didn't
serve
say
1,000.
future.
Present tense,
He
serving
said,
1,000.
yeah, that is what he wrote. The tweet is still there. He said that it is serving 1,000 households. It was serving one household, which it was done for the purposes of the launch. And for your information, this is a project which was done in the previous regime.
All right. Alfred, unfortunately, we are running short of time. And Cynthia, just 30 seconds to just wrap up this.
You know, the sentiments of a citizen and the personal experience is something that one should take note. Because if someone who is as prominent and somebody who has been in authority as Alfred Keter can narrate the ordeal he went through, what do you think an ordinary citizen who isn't known, who doesn't have a voice like Alfred Keter has, what chance does that citizen have in this country if he chooses to speak the truth?
True.
Or if he chooses to speak truth to power? Yes.
Yeah. And I just wanted to sum it all up, but to just say, if you go to the EACC Twitter handle, X handle right now, as a young person, what do you do when you encounter corruption? Just look at it. 18.7% will report it. Stay silent, 22.3%. But those who will engage in it is 58.9%.
58.9%.
That is something that we as a country must sit down and think why the young people think that the only way is to engage in it. I'm Dennis Aseto. This has been The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.